Hello and welcome to Research Methods. A lot of students undertake a taught master's programme in preparation for doctoral research, and learning research methods is an integral part of training for later research degrees, higher research degrees. And this module is designed to provide that kind of basic training. So the module will teach students about basic research skills and methods, from the really quite ordinary but fundamental and very important skills of footnoting, bibliographic references, those kinds of things. But the module also will look at the different sources for conducting theological research: journals, dictionaries, monographs, book reviews, those kinds of things, and the way in which we sift and prioritise those different sources. The module also introduces students to research methodology. So how do we actually get going with conducting theological research? What's the process? Where do we begin? How do we refine the research that we conduct? And what counts as successful research? These are all reflected on right through the module. And the assessed exercise for this module is regarded by many students as extremely useful. What is required is a single paper looking at the development of a key theme in systematic and philosophical theology over a period of about 30 years, approximately 30 years. So students are asked to take a theme, for example, the doctrine of creation or Christology or the problem of evil, and take a founding text, a primary text from, say, 30 years ago, and then look at the responses to that particular research and the way in which the research agenda evolves over the next decades. The way in which people respond to that work, for example, through book reviews, through articles that dissent, through other research, lines of research strands that develop in different ways. So, for example, we may take a very controversial but very influential work such as The Myth of God Incarnate, a collection of essays published in the 1970s by some patristic scholars and systematic theologians in the United Kingdom that question the traditional doctrine of the Incarnation, and look at the way in which responses emerged from that work, critical responses as well as supportive responses, and the way in which the field of Christology evolved in response to the myth of God incarnate over the following 30 to 40 years. And students come to realise that, in fact, this research strand develops in quite interesting ways. Some of those strands become dead ends, others become much more fruitful. And they come to realise that the state of Christological research now, at the beginning of the 21st century, looks very different indeed from the state of Christological research when a book such as The Myth of God Incarnate was published in the 1970s. The questions are very different, the priorities are very different, and the texts, the fundamental texts that are deployed are different. Those texts that are common are read very differently. So the aim with this assessed exercise is to teach students to trace a strand of research over a particular period of time in order to highlight where the dead ends are, where research hasn't proved fruitful, but also where there are still latent possibilities for research. In other words, students come to learn how to spot gaps, lacunae in research, so that they can then learn where to make their own contribution, where to conduct their own research to fill in gaps, to develop strands of research in new and interesting areas. And many of our students, before they begin their research dissertation for their MA and perhaps think about moving on to doctoral research, find this exercise, guided by one of the faculty members in the department, to be very, very helpful indeed in developing their own research skills and methodologies. Thank you.